Welcome back to my channel for an absolutely exciting Leica episode, because this is the first time you will see on my channel the new Noctilux-M. Widest open is an f1.2, 35mm is the focal length. It's the first Noctilux lens Leica ever brought to market with a wide angle focal length. It's an aspherical lens, and the version I have here is with a black anodized finish. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, support my work. For you, it's for free. For me, it really means the world, because it helps me to increase the reach of my channel. Many thanks for that. All right, 2 points of housekeeping. First of all, I want to thank my friends from Leica Switzerland and Leica Zurich for giving this lens to me before it is announced in the market, like they always do with every new gadget they bring to market. I'm super grateful for that, but most importantly, the friendship with you guys means the world to me. Many thanks. Second, I want to quickly outline the game plan for this video. First of all, we'll unbox the lens and we'll have a look at the lens in detail, of course, looking also into specifications. I also want to embed my review into a bit of Noctilux history, which hopefully will be interesting. I have a bunch of Noctilux lenses here in the studio, so we'll kind of frame what I'm going to tell you about this new lens. We'll provide the context of it. And then I want to shoot it. I will shoot it with the Leica M-to-L adapter on my Leica SL3 reporter. And the reason is not that I sold my Leica M cameras. I, of course, still have and enjoy my Leica M11P Safari. I enjoy my Leica M EV1, all of that. But for days now, I'm really desperately waiting for better weather outside. But unfortunately, it's always wet. Currently, it's snowing, and I cannot take a lens, which is not my own lens, out into snowy weather and stormy weather. That's just not okay. So I will do a little bit of indoor shooting tonight and tomorrow. And for this, I will appreciate in lower light in-body image stabilization on the Leica SL3, which also works for Leica M lenses. Maybe a good opportunity to show and demonstrate to you. And then we will also, of course, look into sample images. Let's have a look at the box first. So I already said black anodized finish here. We also get the product number here. That's 11635. And it's the new packaging Leica typically uses these days for lenses and cameras. It's environmental friendly. And of course, we also have here some barcode, which they can scan and read. This lens here is with me only for a few days, and the weather is not turning any better, unfortunately. So I have to see how I get my sample images done. As I said, I will try to do something meaningful indoors today and tomorrow. And then it has to go back to the Leica store in Zurich, because my friend Phil Penman is coming to Zurich next week. We'll see him also in the studio here and for dinner. And he will take over the lens for his own review, which I think is the official Leica review for that lens here in Switzerland. Now let's get the tool ready. So let's open this here. Let's close it. And then this should fall apart like always. We know this from packagings from Leica. Let's get the dust and the dirt away from the table. Here's more. See, I'm a pedantic person, and here we have it. Noctilux-M, widest open 1.2 aspherical lens, and most importantly, absolute novum 35mm wide angle focal length. That's not what we had before, and we come to a little bit of Noctilux history in a moment. Let's open this up. Then we get the usual leather pouch, very valuable always in the Leica lens portfolio. I don't think there is much more in the box. We can lift this up, probably some paperwork here. Then it's empty, you see. And here we have some paperwork. It's probably the usual stuff, but let me quickly open it for the sake of completeness. Let's have a look. You can register your product here. You have M lens general information, and that's it. And then we have here the lens. And the lens will be beautiful in black anodized finish. And guess what? It's super heavy for its size. You wouldn't expect that type of weight when you see the size of the lens, but it's absolutely typical for Noctilux lenses, because in order to achieve a widest open f1.2, Leica uses a lot of top-notch glass. Let's spend a moment on Noctilux history and let's embed this new lens here into Noctilux content. I think that's something I typically do on my channel when I look into something brand new, a novum like here for the very first time, a wide angle Noctilux lens in the Leica M lens lineup. And the first Noctilux lens which came to market was this one here. This is from the first production series of Noctilux lenses, and the year when Leica introduced it was 1966. It was the very first serial lens with aspherical elements, and it was a big moment for Leica to reveal that they have developed this lens. And this is it. This is the lens. And if we look inside here, you see here, this is a Noctilux lens. Here you see it engraved. Widest open is an f1.2, 50mm focal length. If we look into the serial number here, we have a 2254748, which in the Leica pocketbook here, the Leica Bible, says that the production period was 1966 to 1975. And we have in this lens here 6 lens elements in 4 groups. We'll later see that the new 35mm Noctilux is a bit more complex and of course also more modern. And that's where the first Noctilux came to market in 1966. So this is the very first one. We are now no longer in 1966. We are in 2026, so quite some years ahead of time compared to when this one came to market. And of course, lens development, optical insights, physics, it all has developed. And here we have a very modern representative of this original thought, having a lens which is made for the night. So 1966, the history of Noctilux lenses kicked off in the Leica universe. Let's put that lens here. And the next milestone was 10 years later, namely 1976. And here Leica went even more far on widest open. So this is a Noctilux-M. Widest open is an f1.0. It's also a 50mm lens. And if we look into the number here and look this up in the Leica pocketbook, the Leica pocketbook says 1975, 1976 to 2008 was the production period. And here we had already 7 lens elements in 6 group compared to a less complex construction we had here in 1966. And you also see in terms of size, the new lens with widest open f1.0 is bigger than the original one with f1.2. And you see it here in the aperture ring, widest open, if we go here, is an f1.0. Here I like the aperture ring even more than on the older lens. Listen to the clicks. This is a beautifully preserved unit of this f1.0 Noctilux 50mm, and I really love it. It's a pleasure shooting with it. And that is the second benchmark we have here in our little history lesson. So this is 1966, then we have 1976. Now, those of you who are into mathematical pattern, they might assume that we have 1966, 1976, then 1986. Something exciting should happen with the Noctilux lineup, but that's not the case. Actually, the next time we saw a big innovation from Leica, the fastest lens they ever produced, was in 2008. So 32 years after this lens here was introduced. And this is the famous, even bigger, larger and heavier Noctilux 50mm f0.95. If we look into that here, I can probably only show it if I get the UV filter removed for a moment so you have a better look inside. Let's do this. Let me turn it. So if you read here, we have here Noctilux-M. Widest open is an f0.95, 50mm. It's an aspherical lens as this one here. And for the Noctilux lineup, that was actually the novum back then in 1966 to include aspherical lens elements in the optical construction of the lens. And this one here was really spectacular when Leica introduced it. I have here the silver chrome finish one. This lens also exists in a black anodized finish version. And it's a beautiful lens. It's a very heavy lens. And you find a lot of sample images in videos on my channel about this lens. I've shot this lens countless many times and shown the images on my channel. Let's get the UV filter applied again because this is a very expensive lens. It needs protection. And in this way, We have here the fastest lens Leica ever made. Widest open aperture is an f0.95 and 50mm is the focal length. And you see the pattern. We have so far here all 50mm focal length lenses. 50mm, 50mm. Here is another 50mm lens in silver chrome finish. And I also was one of the very few who was lucky enough to purchase the same lens in titanium finish. It's called the Noctilux 50mm f0.95 Titan. And this is a very special lens which achieved record-breaking results in recent lights auctions in Vienna and Germany. And this is a beautiful finish compared to the silver chrome. The black anodized version I don't have. So this is what we have here, 1966, 1976, 2008, and this is recent times with, you know, the exactly same optical properties, but a titanium finish. That's why the lens is called the Titan Noctilux. So far in the Leica Noctilux history, we have only 50mm lenses. In 2017, that changed. Leica introduced the Noctilux 75mm, which is even bigger than the 50mm versions here. And let me also open this one for you. Beautiful lens. And this is the Noctilux-M 75mm. Widest open is an f1.25. Of course, it's an aspherical lens. That's part of the characteristics of Noctilux lenses. And it was introduced in 2017. And that's for the first time we saw a Noctilux with a focal length which is not 50mm, but 75mm. And then before we come to the brand new Noctilux 35mm. In 2021, Leica brought a remake of this very first Noctilux lens, widest open f1.2, in kind of the same form and shape. And the standard version, it also came in these containers here. The standard version in black looks like this. Let me unscrew this quickly in order to show you. And if you compare the original one from 1966 production start and the new one production start in 2021, this is pretty much the same lens, but optimized, refreshed, and is of course a more modern version of the very first Noctilux series. And if you look inside here, well, you can't see it. I don't want to remove all the UV filters, but its widest open is an f1.2. You can see this here on the aperture ring, for instance. And this one here also came in a special limited edition, which I want to quickly show because it's, again, proof of evidence that sometimes Leica gear is highly collectible, namely in the silver chrome finish. This one here is strictly limited and trades currently in the market at least with a multiple of 4 times above its retail price, in the same way as the Noctilux 50mm f0.95 Titan here is trading for insane price tags at lights auctions. And this one here is a very valuable lens, so it's a highly desired collectible for Leica shooters and people who are interested in Leica history and Leica gear, of course. So that's what we have. A lot of Noctilux lenses here in front of me on the table. What I want to do now, after providing context and a bit of history here, I hope you enjoyed it. By the way, we have beautiful retro lens hoods here on these ones here on the Noctilux 50mm f1.2 from 2021. After doing that bit of history here, I want to now focus solely on the new Noctilux 35mm. We'll clean up the mess, get all these lenses back in the glass vitrine in the background. And we will turn our full attention to this new Noctilux 35mm, look into specifications, mount it on the cameras where it fits, of course. And then I'm going to shoot this lens with my Leica SL3 reporter. Let me quickly cover the specifications and the quality of this lens here. And first of all, it's like always in the Leica M lens lineup, a full metal construction. It's a very solid, a beautiful lens. Let's listen to the aperture clicks. And by the way, here we go to widest open f1.2. You see here the 1.2 engraved and a little dash where your dot here aligns then 1.2, 1.4. then 2.0 and so on, and listen to the clicks of the aperture. It's a very solid aperture ring. Sometimes they have a bit of play. That's not the case for this new Noctilux 35mm. So have your ear close to the loudspeaker and listen to the sound. How is that? Beautiful, isn't it? It's very nice. Let's look into the focus ring here. That has a lot of resistance, but is very, very smooth. And we also see here that this lens is a modern construction, which we find in newer Leica M lenses, because here at 0.7 on the distance scale here, it basically has a little bit of a click or a stop. And that's as far as you can use the rangefinder. I have no rangefinder camera here with me on the table, but my Leica M11P is back there in the glass vitrine. And if you want to use the rangefinder, you can focus between 0.7 meter and between infinity. And by the way, look at that long travel way of the focus ring. Beautiful. And you turn, and here you feel a little stop, and that's 0.7. That's end of story for focusing with the rangefinder. And then you will be able to continue to focus, but only with the VisuFlex 2 electronic viewfinder or via the LCD display on a Leica M camera. And then you can go as close as 0.5 meter here. See? I don't have detailed specifications in a spec sheet yet, but that seems to be the minimum focusing distance. So you will get also a little bit of magnification here, which you typically don't have on older Leica M lenses. And it really has to stop here. I can feel it. You will not be able to hear it, but I can feel it. And this is the rangefinder range, and this is the LCD or electronic viewfinder range here. And you can go as close as 0.5 meter. Beautiful. In the Noctilux lineup I showed you before, this is a more compact lens. And the weight, I talked about the weight at the beginning already when I got the lens out of the box. The weight is 415 grams, so it's by far not as heavy as some of the Noctilux lenses I showed you before. 415 gram is really okay. And the lens construction is way more complex than the original Noctilux f1.2, but with 50 millimeter, not 35 millimeter, from 1966. Here we talk about 10 lenses in 5 groups, including 3 aspherical elements. So this is very nice. The lens cap here is very solid on the lens body. Look at that. This is a lot of force I need to get this off, which is appreciated because that means you can use that lens cap. It's not accidentally slipping off if you have the lens on the camera body in your backpack. And we also have here a lens hood, which we can screw out. And it basically snaps in here. Then I cannot push it back. I have to turn it and then I can push it back. So the lens hood is integrated, a very modern design. Minimum focusing distance closer than what you typically have on rangefinder compatible lenses, and a beautiful lens cap and an included lens hood here, which you can turn, and then it clicks in and then you turn it back. So beautiful, very solid, very, very well done construction here in this new Noctilux 35 millimeter. The lens is compatible with the Elpro 52 with the included adapter because the filter thread here on that lens is 49. So it's an E49 filter thread, and that means the Elpro 52 fits onto that lens in the same way as it fits on the Leica Q3 cameras, which I showed you on the channel in a couple of videos. And that means with the minimum focusing distance of 0.5 with the Elpro 52, you will be able to go even closer and use this lens also for decent macro photography or close-up shootings. And that is something I will try out in a subsequent video. I'm sure it interests a lot of people to see how a Noctilux 35 millimeter will perform with the Elpro 52 for close-up shootings. I think that's a nice side fact, which at least I wanted to share here in my review. As I said, Switzerland for many days is blessed with weather that's not suitable for a Leica M lens that is not in my possession and is not my property. I have to return it early coming week, but I want to shoot the lens. So I decided for the Leica SL3 with the M-to-L adapter. And because I'm shooting indoors, I will appreciate in-body image stabilization. I'm going to show you in a moment how to set this up. But I want, of course, at least show you how this lens looks like in terms of dimensions and size on a Leica M camera. That's why I have my Leica M-EB1 here in front of me on the table and want to mount it to give you some feeling of the proportions you have with that new 35 millimeter Noctilux lens. So let's get the M-EB1 here. Let's remove my Summron 28 millimeter, one of my most favorite lenses at all times. Let's get this one off here and let's mount it quickly on the Leica M-EB1, which is also a brand new camera. Snaps in. And now look here. This looks really good. This is a camera I currently like to carry with me, and I become very disciplined in using a strap. I posted a video about my problem with straps some time back and how I want to discipline myself to actually use them. And if you look at the proportions, this looks really, really good. Let's get the lens hood out here for a moment. And that's how it looks like on a Leica M camera. And let me also quickly grab my Leica M11P Safari here out of the glass vitrine and show you how it looks on a Leica M11 or Leica M11P. But this is really good. It's a really good size in terms of proportions for a Leica M type camera here. So here's my Leica M11P, by the way, with a Safari lens here. That's a 50mm Safari lens. And by the way, I need to talk about Safari lenses very soon because there are new Safari lenses out there in the market. And for sure you want to know about them. Let's remove the Safari 50mm here. Let's give it a lens cap here. Let's remove this one from the MEB1. And let's mount it here on the Leica M11P, which is the same kind of as the Leica M11. And also here in terms of proportions, it looks quite nice. Now I have this black hand grip here, which a lot of people criticized and probably continue to criticize, but that's the only hand grip I have. For this Leica M11P, I should get a tailor-made with this Safari look here, but I haven't done it yet. And I think it looks really good. Proportions from size perspective and the way it integrates with the camera looks really good. Here, of course, on my M11P Safari, based on the chrome finish elements, I would prefer this lens in a silver chrome finish. I think that would look even better. And then I need to get rid of that ugly hand grip here. I know you guys make a very valid point, the ones who criticize me on that. And then it will look really, really cool. Well, at the very end, it's about taking images, capturing moments. It's not about style and design, but if you have a Safari edition, you also want to be a little bit stylish on your way, of course. So you will hear more about that lens in the next weeks and months. As I said, I want to shoot it also for close-ups with the Elpro 52. I will use it on my Leica M cameras when I get better weather outside, but for an indoor shooting, I appreciate this lens more on my Leica SL3 because of in-body image stabilization. I'm going to show you in a moment how to set this up. So let's mount it on my Leica SL3 reporter. Let's get here the camera cap off. Let's mount the Leica M-to-L adapter. That's this beauty here. It's actually quite simple how to get it fit onto the mount here. We have here a red dot and we have here a red dot, and that's what we need to align. And then we snap it in. Listen to the sound. Boom. Very good. Now we are ready to actually mount this new Noctilux 35mm. And here again, we have here a red dot, we have here a red dot. So we align this and screw it in. And we listen to the sound again. Boom. Here we go. And if I look at that, this also looks really good. I'm anyway a big fan of shooting Leica M lenses on Leica SL3 cameras. Why is that the case? Because focus peaking, magnification, everything is here. We have one of the best electronic viewfinders in the market. It's an OLED viewfinder with 5.76 million pixels. And it also looks very good. It's absolutely fine to shoot manually focusing M lenses on Leica SL cameras. And this looks in particular very, very nice. Look at that dark green with that black anodized finish of the new Noctilux-M 35mm. So I'll take the camera now out with me. I will try to get the best out of the situation I have at this point in time. I would have loved to shoot it at night because that's always what I do first. Out there shooting cities, landscape, what have you, but the weather is not allowing for it. This is not my lens. I need to be careful with that lens. I need to return it. And my friend Phil Penman also needs to be able to do his shooting with that lens later in the course of the week. And I will definitely follow up with landscape, shooting the lens at night, all of that. The moment in time in Switzerland, we get better weather. Let me quickly switch on the camera and show you the setup. Let's remove the lens cap here. Let's get the lens hood out. That's a procedure you should get used to if you shoot these type of lenses. And let's switch the camera on. And of course, you know, By instinct, you put your pointing finger on the shutter release button to half press it, but that is not working with Leica M lenses. So let's manually focus this for a moment to see if we get something sharp here in the background. And I think we do. It's a very long travel way, very, very long travel way. Pretty cool. And what we need to do is we need to go here into the menu. And in the menu, we need to go to camera settings. And let me go down here to show this to you. Here we go, camera settings. And then we have in the camera settings here, we have the lens profiles. And of course, this lens is now not recognized because Leica is not stupid. They just issued firmware 4.0.0, but this lens here is not yet announced. So there is no lens profile for a Noctilus 35mm. Let me show you. Let's go here into the lens profiles. Let's go to M lenses and let's go to list of M lenses. And then we can scroll here until we come to 35mm. And here you see the first one is an f1.4, 1.4, 1.4, no 1.2. Then we have 2.0. And then here we have 2.4, 2.5, and then we are in the 50mm focal length camp. So there is no profile for this lens. But what I can do, of course, I can set this up under other lens. And it's very important, very crucial. Whenever you mount a lens on a camera body where you want to use in-body image stabilization, you need to tell the camera what focal length you are shooting with. So we go here to other lens, and then we go here to 35mm. And I personally believe this will give me a clean image, even if I have it longer in terms of exposure time handheld. Let's see if with my settings I just showed here, in-body image stabilization really works. I want to shoot at 1/10 seconds. I could make this even slower, but it's already overexposed. Well, we can go. Let's go to, I don't know, 1/8 seconds. I'm at the lowest ISO setting here already. And of course, the aperture is not recognized because Leica M lenses have no electronic contacts. But let me try to take that shot here. And by the way, let's also go into focus peaking here. I have this set up on a customizable function button for the next info profile. So you see the blue color kicking in. Everything is in focus now. And let's take a shot. Here we go. Let's go inside. And if I crop in here by 100%, you see this is overexposed, but it's sharp. And that means in-body image stabilization works because even if you're very aggressive, you should have here 1/40 seconds, better 1/60 or 1/70 seconds. And if I shoot here with 1/8 seconds and it's still sharp and in focus, that means in-body image stabilization recognized by my setting I showed you before, the 35mm focal length, and I can use it for my indoor shooting. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say and show with respect to that lens. I'll now take the camera with me into the evening and also tomorrow into the day. We'll come back and then show you the images I shot with this new Noctilux 35mm, the first ever Noctilux lens from Leica, widest open f1.2, which has a wide angle focal length of 35mm. All right, I mentioned several times I was a bit weather handicapped, could not take that lens out into the snow and the storm. But at least I wanted to show a few images and also share with you some of my observations about this new Noctilux lens. And as promised, there is much more to come. I'll shoot the lens at night, of course, is one of my habits on the channel. I'll test it with the Elpro 52 for close-up shootings, all of that. And this was the first image I took actually in the studio when dialing into the settings the 35mm focal length for trying out whether in-body image stabilization really works. And it worked. If you look into that and I crop in, this is a pinpoint sharp image. And it's handheld shooting with 1/8 seconds. So clearly this is only possible with in-body image stabilization on the Leica SL3. So that works. You just should not forget the setting in the lens settings. The camera needs to know the focal length. Then I played a bit with portraits. The next 3 images, they are all shot with an f2.8. Of course, the Leica SL3 metadata does not know about the aperture dialed in on the lens because Leica M lenses do not have electronic contacts and the Leica SL3 does not even know which lens I'm using because it has no 6-bit optical coding reader on the mount of the lens. in the way we have it on Leica M cameras. So the Leica SL3 basically is in blind flight, but here I remember I dialed in an aperture of f2.8 as I did here and I did here. And one of the characteristics of Noctilux lenses, of course, is a beautiful bokeh. And you see here the background blurriness, you see the background lights, almost circular, looks really good. Also here on that image, if you look into the background. And the images are pretty sharp. If I crop in here, you see the left-hand side eye where I was focusing manually is sharp. Same is here, and the same is on the third image. And generally 35mm is not my most favorite focal length for portraits, but if you open the aperture reasonably wide, it actually gives you very nice and beautiful footage. So I like that. Here this was widest open f1.2, and in contrast to here, and here if you look at the background lights, you see of course that the background gets even more blurry and beautifully soft. I really like that image, and again it's pretty sharp. If you look at that, that was decoration in the restaurant where I spent the evening with friends and family. And I think the Noctilux background bokeh always was legendary, and this 35mm Noctilux is no exception in that. Same here, look at that, looks really good. Then I was spending a moment in the smoker lounge, taking a photo here, and look at the smoke. I really like that. And in Switzerland, typically you cannot smoke indoors, but if you find a cigar lounge, you will find a smoker, and if you ask politely, he might be willing to blow some smoke into the air for your photo. And in the foreground, beautifully soft. Look at that. Really nice. I think that was also shot at an f2.8. Another image in the restaurant. Again, look how the separation of the foreground from the background beautifully works with that lens. Here an image of the bar. Sharp, good. It's 1/20 seconds. Again, I'm pretty sure because I have not the most calm hands in the world. In-body image stabilization was helping me here. And here a bottle of wine. That wine is called a Papillon. It's a very good red wine. If you manage to get a bottle somewhere in a restaurant, it's really good. It's not really cheap, but it's also not super expensive. And I like here the way these tattooed hands are on the bottle. And then here, just to give you proof of evidence, I was standing here under a roof, so I could take that shot. And it's really snowy outside, and it was also very stormy. And then I wanted to do a little bit of more systematic testing, which I want to share with you. My subject here is an older Leica M camera. It's the model 240, and it's designed by Andy Summers from the pop group Police. And he was a passionate photographer, and he designed this camera in a way that on the camera body, with some texture, you find black and white photos which he took with his camera. And this was shot widest open at f1.2, and you see here, this is reasonably sharp, has good contrast, micro contrast. Of course, a very shallow depth of field, because I was focusing on the camera body texture, and the depth of field was too shallow to also give me sharpness on the engravings on the lens front side here. But it's a pretty nice image. But why I took this image is I wanted to compare it with the same situation. So focusing on the camera body texture here, but not with an f1.2 like here, but with an f5.6. And this is this image here. And here the depth of field is wider, of course. You get almost sharp engravings on the lens. You also see beautifully here the aperture blades. And you basically see that the sharpness, the level of sharpness, of course, and that's typical for Leica M lenses, except you have an aposomicron, is reasonably better if you stop down. Look at this one here. This is sharp, f1.2, but it is at the same time a little bit soft. At least that's what I think I see in this image. If you stop down to f5.6, which very often is the sweet spot anyway for Leica M lenses, it's much more crisp, and also contrast and micro contrast improves in what I'm seeing here in these images. Drop me a comment what you think. f1.2, f5.6. And you need to be aware of this. If you shoot a Noctilux lens widest open, in this case it's an f1.2, not going as far as the 0.95 Noctilux. You will get dreamy images, but they will also be a bit more soft than if you would have stopped down. And very often an f2.8 is enough to get a very crispy image with reasonably good contrast and micro contrast. And I don't think this is a bad image. For an f1.2, this is probably a reasonably good image, but at f5.6, you still get a very nice separation of the foreground, my subject here, from the background, but you get significantly better contrast, micro contrast, crispiness, and sharpness. That's why I wanted to show this. Now, these two here, they are single shots, as I said, focusing on the camera body only, on that texture here with the black and white photos from Andy Summers. And then I went for a manual focus stacking and basically moved the focus all the time a little bit with the focus ring, starting at the minimum focusing distance, and in this way making sure that I get the best magnification of my subject, this Leica M240 camera. And you see it here, always turning the focus ring a little bit, taking the next shot, and creating a sequence of reasonably many focus bracketed frames and stacking them together. I did the same at a widest open f1.2 aperture and at an aperture f5.6. And I want to quickly show you my results. So here's the focus stacked single frame with widest open aperture of f1.2. And if we look into that, now we have not only, of course, the camera body sharpened in focus, but also the engravings on the lens, the control wheels here on top of the camera body. And that looks good. And again, this is an image which is reasonably sharp, has enough contrast and micro contrast, but it improves significantly if you do the same procedure with focus bracketing and focus stacking on your computer at an aperture of f5.6. And here, look at that. This is really different to what we had before, f1.2, f5.6. And in particular, if you look at the texture and Andy Summers black and white photos here, you see a significant difference, I think, between f1.2 and f5.6, which is totally normal, right? If you stop down, the performance of the lens just gets better, and the separation of my subject from the background is still reasonably well working. So again, that is just a reminder, if you want to get the best performance of these type of lenses, then stop down a little bit. f2.8 onwards is good enough. And if you want the dreamy look a Noctilux can give to you, then shoot it widest open at f1.2. There's one more remark I want to make here, namely going back to the single shot at f1.2. Look at the little bit of curvature you get here in the background along the horizontal direction of the windows. This is no longer there if you stop down. And there is also some distortion, which again can happen if you shoot a lens widest open at f1.2. And you see the same phenomenon here in the stacked images. Look here, you see that little bit of curvature here along the horizontal axis, and at f5.6, lines are straight and the distortion is gone. So for me, this is a typical Noctilux lens. It gives you a very dreamy look if you shoot it widest open. It gives you absolutely terrific performance if you stop down a little bit by 1 or 2 stops. And there is more to come, as I said, shooting it at night, combining it with the Leica Elpro 52, all of that. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel, there's always more to come. Thanks for watching, stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.